Hello from yet another Monday evening in California. On Mondays, I shoot book reviews, and if you have been following me from Instagram, the book today that I'm going to talk about has been my personal favorite last year. As a matter of fact, I carried it with me to a lot of places that I traveled, and this was one of those books where I rekindled my love with writing on the books, on the edges of the books. And this book's pages became kind of like sounding board for all my thoughts about it. So in a way, it's not a book review, it is just me convincing you to read this book. Because you know how there are some books that change the course of your lives, and this has been one of those books for me, especially last year when I was struggling with a lot of things. And the books that I read, I really did think contributed to a lot to my life. The book that I'm talking about is Jhumpa Lahiri's In Other Words. Now, I have been a fan of Jhumpa Lahiri as long as I can remember. When I read her first book, I felt tempted to read her second book, third book. I have read all the books by her, and she's the only author I've read all books from. So I felt tempted to read this one when I got to know about it. What I like about Jhumpa Lahiri's book are they have a mix of short stories, and then there are books that are length of a novel, and in either of them there is such depth, and her forte is her writing, as everyone says. I happen to like it a lot, and I will be honest, I didn't know about this one for the longest time, maybe because it is non-fiction as opposed to her primary mode of writing, which is fiction books. As a matter of fact, she taints it as her memoir or her biography. So it's a bit different than her usual style. It's also different because she wrote it in Italian first, and it's translated by another author in English. That's what I was reading, and I will go into the details why it's in Italian and everything about it in the introduction section. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hi guys, this is Pooja at A Book by the Window. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are reading good. I'm talking about In Other Words by Jhumpa Lahiri from the blurb and from what I know about after reading the book. The book is about the author Jhumpa Lahiri's self-reflection about her tryst with trying to learn Italian. Her quest first started when she visited Florence for the first time in 1994, and there she fell in love with Roman architecture, and she wanted to learn a different language from what she's used to writing and what she already knows. And this is her attempt to do so. In the 20 years that follows, she finds herself finding different tutors, writing, scraping off books, going to the country to speak Italian, and in the end still always feeling that she will never be the one. She will never be one with the language. Locals will not accept her as a native Italian speaker, even though she speaks the tongue, but her appearance makes it feel otherwise. And she's frustrated with it. She has her wins, then she has her losses, and it's just a learning process that she embraces. Older in her life, very well established in her career, and that's when she takes on this challenge. So we've already established that these chapters are kind of her self-reflection or her journal that she's jotting her thoughts on. But I'll go ahead and talk about the writing of the book and what spoke to me the most. The chapters are divided in kind of like a diary entry, and they do span a couple of years. What stood apart to me were a couple of things. First is the opening chapter. Without giving too much information, she starts off with describing a scene from her life where she's trying to swim across a lake, and she's learned how to swim so many times. She's done it so many times, yet she's nervous to do it the first time around because there are no back seas once she gets into the lake. She cannot control coming back, and all she had to do at that point is to go straight, but she needs confidence to swim across, and we will see it in the book in chapters going forward, that how it comes across as a beautiful lesson in living, and that is what I love always. Talking about living and learning. Another thing that spoke to me was she talks about writing, and she talks about trying to learn Italian in a very intimate and illuminating way, jotting down all her struggles and scenes from her lives. And if you know Jhumpa Lahiri's writing, she is really big on metaphors, so you would find her drawing metaphors from her real life and onto this process of learning, where she feels like a kid again, and she feels like she's struggling so much she'll never be on the other side of the lake. But she does not give up. She keeps at it. She has a pocketbook where she collects words in Italian. She continuously writes. She tries to speak to locals in Italian. She goes to tutors, and all of these things she's describing as metaphors in life, which is always, I really like reading that, because I am also the kind of person who would go back to lessons learned in terms of how far my life has come and what analogies I can derive in real-time examples as well. So I loved reading that as well. Last and the most important thing that I loved about the writing was when she draws parallels about trying to write in Italian as a way of life. It is the memoir. It is what she's writing about her life. And I've only seen another author talk about another activity as a way of life. It's Murakami. He talks about running in his book, What I Talk When I Talk About Running, and he talks about it like a way of life. And I could draw parallel between the two books, where two of my favorite authors are talking about a thing which is not entirely writing, but they are talking about it as a way of life, and that becomes their memoir. So I was very elated. I always like cross references like these, so it was a cherry on the cake for me. Even though I've already talked about so many good things about the book, I still am going to talk about the highlight of the book, because there's more to the book that I've already spoken about. The main highlight for me about the book was, I picked this one up when I was struggling a lot in my life and I was very lost. I've been lost for a few years, but this particular time in my life I was very lost at work and I did not understand what my way forward is. So when I picked up this book, it just gave me a kind of solace and a reassurance that it is okay to not know everything in life, and there is so much emphasis on learning. I became a learner again, and whenever I would struggle, like I learned how to run last year, I also taught myself to swim, and it took a lot of patience on my end. And whenever I would think of these scenarios, I would go back to this book and think, you know, hey, one of the most renowned author in the world can also feel imposterish because they pick on a challenge and they want to test their mental limits, and you need to do that more often, and when you do, you're gonna run into frustration. So keep going at it. That is where the gold comes from. You need to keep learning, keep upskilling, but not just for the purpose of, you know, getting ahead in your career. That's also there, getting ahead in something or getting something out of it. You need to keep that learning spirit in you alive, and it actually made me feel really powerful when I used to learn new things, and it used to be kind of my own thing. And this book taught me that. Because why I am saying that is because in entire account of she learning Italian, I could not understand why she chose Italian in the first place. Italian in itself is a very difficult language, as anyone would know, and it's almost very difficult to speak. So why did she choose that? I couldn't gather from her thoughts, honestly, and I would find myself thinking, why is she doing that to herself? I couldn't get an answer in the end, but I did get a lesson that you need to keep learning, and if there's something that you're really passionate about, it could be anything, no one else has to understand it, you understand it and you make something out of it. So that was the highlight for me, and I still keep this book with me whenever I feel lost. So I will just turn some page, and you can see that I've underlined a lot of these pages. I've underlined a lot of these lines, so I would just pick this one up, read something that I've underlined. I also write my thoughts on the sides, so I would read what I was thinking at that time. And this is a very well loved book. You can see that the cover is frail and it's a little bit shaky, so for me a well loved book is one that I've kept with me for long and have written in it, and I have used it kind of like a prop with me wherever I go. So that has been the highlight for me. I'm only going to talk about the lowlights for a little bit because I don't want to deter you from reading this book. The only lowlight that I found was some of the chapters were repetitive. So although she would come up with new metaphors to describe a particular feeling, it sometimes felt like she's going back to the same thought that she started from. And I'm not sure if human mind and its ramblings need to have some structure. Maybe that is what she was going for, and structure account of what she thinks when she's doing all of these activities, and what she thinks when she is thinking of writing, when she's thinking of literature, when she's thinking of Roman architecture. All of these things she does jot it down, but some of the metaphors get repetitive. I don't have a problem with it. I can read books as much as my time permit, and I don't mind extra pages, but I did feel that someone out there might not feel very convinced with some of the repetitive thoughts. Second thing, and the last low light for me, was in the entire account. As I already said, I couldn't understand why she chose Italian in the first place. She does talk about how she wanted to choose a language of her own. She already knows Bengali because it's her mother tongue, and as a second generation American, she already knew English, and that's what she wrote in. But then suddenly she wanted to have a language of her own, which is perfect, which is fine, it happens. But why did she choose Italian? She never mentions that. I think she might have, but it did not spook to me. That's why it hasn't stuck with me. But all the time I find myself questioning. I've also written it, why Italian? I couldn't understand it. So that was the only low light for me. And there you have it. That is the final review for In Other Words by Jhumpa Lahiri. By final review, I mean you should definitely pick this book up because it is honestly a 5-star for me. I am not even going to call this a review because it is just a cry for all of you to pick this one, because it honestly did change my life, and we need more books like these in our lives. I get a lot of questions. A lot of people ask me, what should I pick up if I'm a beginner, or can you tell me a motivational book? This one fits both the bills, and it's a very small book, very easily written. It does have metaphors, and some people might find it boring. If you do find it boring, you can always keep it down for some time and pick it up again. It's not meant to be a chronicle or an exciting book where you lose your night's sleep over it, or a page turner. It's not one of those books, but it is a very slow burn. It's not a slow burn, I would say. The chapters are fast, but it is something that is matter-of-factly, but it's also very lyrical in imbibing lessons of life. If you read between the lines, you would understand what she's trying to say, and her writing is already very mature. And I personally am not a very big fantasy person. I do like page turners, but I levitate more towards mature books and mature thinking. So if you're one of those people who are trying to look for growth in life, who are trying to read better books where you can spend some time in investing and honing your thought process, please do read this book. It's not run-of-the-mill motivational self-help book, but it will help you. Trust me on this. I know you guys trust me on my recommendations, so I'm gonna recommend this one. And with that, I'll take your leave for today. If you like this video, please like it. Please share it with your friends. Do tell me in the comment box below if there is something that I can improve, because these are very new videos that I'm making. And if there's any particular book you want review of, I might have read it at some point in life and I might review it. You can also follow me on Goodreads. I have an account of all the books that I read, and whatever reviews I do it there as well. With that said, I will take your leave. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are reading good. I will see you guys next time.